There's an awful lot to unpack there. I think that it is important. It is imperative that we understand that we are in a daily battle, a daily spiritual battle. That all of these things that we're seeing, while they have physical connotations, they have physical outcomes, but the battle is actually spiritual. So these are my three ideas. And I'm curious to know what y'all think. Which would you rather that after Will is finished doing his, that we would then tackle together? What do you think? The spiritual warfare idea? Who's most interested in that? The spiritual warfare idea? This is class participation moment. So, okay, cool. All right, so that's where we're going to go. That's what I was kind of hoping that everybody would want to do. Would kind of go down that spiritual warfare trail. And the reason why I wanted y'all to do that is because what I worked on last night and this morning, actually over the last week, was kind of an introduction to that. I think it would be fun. Before we get into this, I want you to understand that what I am going to be talking about, especially at the beginning and a little bit today, it's going to seem political, but it's not. It's going to get very close to being political, but it is not political because it doesn't matter politics, right? It doesn't matter what we do in this earthly world when it is, well, no, that's not quite true, that it's not political at all. And I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. There is no politician out there, no political party, no person in government or no government entity that is ever going to fix what's going on this earth. It's just not going to happen. The only way, the only thing, the only person, the only way that this world is ever going to be fixed is Jesus Christ. And if you are a visitor here, which I don't see any, but it's very important to understand that this congregation, we are followers of Jesus Christ, right? So that is where we're gonna. That is the way we're gonna go. Okay. So, to that end, turn with me to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. Interesting place to start, right? When you're talking about spiritual warfare. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, specifically verse 9. Specifically verse 9 is what we're going to kind of dive into. But, as I've said before too, when we're doing Bible study, we tend to proof text. We tend to go, hey, I have this idea in my mind, and I am going to find a text that backs up what I have in my mind, and that is a horrible way of doing it. That is endogesis rather than exegesis. It's a bad idea. So we're going to read all of chapter 1, but verses 1 through 11. So Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 1 through 11. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. So who is that? The son of David, king in Jerusalem. Who is this writing this? Ma'am?
The son of David would be Solomon.
There it is, Solomon, right? So king in Jerusalem, the son of David is Solomon. And he says, vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes. But the earth abides forever. The sun also rises. That's a Hemingway book, by the way. That's the title of a Hemingway book. He took that from there. Right? The sun also rises, and the sun goes down. And he hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually and comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. I like the New King James Version. It's a little bit more cumbersome to read, but I like the way it flows. So y'all's might have been just a little bit different in there. But going back to specifically verse 9, that which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun. How can that be? That there's nothing new under the sun. Do you believe that?
It just says history repeats itself.
Over and over and over again, history repeats itself. There's nothing new. But how can you say that, right? How can that possibly be when I've left my cell phone back there, but I was going to use that? You have in your hand or in your pocket right now a cell phone, right? Whether it's a Apple or whatever the other Samsung thingy. You know, you have that in your hand right now, right? Which has more computing power in your pocket that in 1968, when we were trying to get to the moon in 1968, you have more power, more computing power in your pocket than all of the computers that would take up a warehouse, right, to get people to the moon. This is not new, right? Okay? So what about, we have jet aircraft. Thank goodness we have jet aircraft, right? That you can fly from New York City to Los Angeles in 5.5 hours, depending on the wind, right? 5.5 to 6 hours. Where 150 years ago, better part of a year to go from from New York to LA, right? That's not new. Or 24/7 news coverage on a smart TV, or you can stream on a smart TV any movie or series or anything that you want to fill your head with, right? That's not new. You could communicate with people instantly. Ma'am?
Where did the ideas for all of these things come from?
That's it, right? So people back in the old days, right? People sought knowledge. You know, that's hopefully, ostensibly, that's what we're doing with that cell phone is we're seeking knowledge. You know, if you're using something, other than to communicate. People communicated. People traveled. It just took a long time to travel, right? To get from one place to another. Nothing new under the sun. What about the savagery of modern warfare? I mean, the absolute savagery of modern warfare.
Savage beating each other to death with swords.
Well, that's exactly where I'm going, right? So we have missiles now, we have tanks, we have airplanes that are blowing each other up, blowing people up and blowing each other out of the sky. We've got nuclear weapons. Thank goodness we haven't, used those things in a long time, right? But I mean, think about, like Sharon said, think about the Battle of Cannae, right? Or, depending upon how people pronounce that, but the Battle of Cannae between Carthage and Rome, exactly I wrote it down, 216 BC, in the Second Punic War. And the Carthaginians were able to get a double envelopment around the Roman army. And they killed every single Roman soldier that was there with a sword or a spear. Right? Left not one alive. It's pretty savage. That's pretty savage. Personally, I'd rather get shot right in the medulla oblongata than get, but whatever. Anyway, so, and what about some of these other social ills that we have, or that we had in the past, and then we still have today? So you could look at slavery, for example. Slavery is abhorrent, is it not? It's a horrible thing for one group of people to put another group of people into bondage, and the horrors that are associated with that, right? You had, the beatings and the whippings and just the lack of freedom and the rapes and all of those horrible things that happened, right, in the past. I'm going to tell you right now, there is as much or more slavery going on right now in this world than in any time in the past. Most of it is sexual. Children being stolen, young boys, young girls, men, women being stolen. and put it into the sex trade market, right? Just as horrible. There's nothing new under the sun, right? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That
Yes, ma'am.
when he says there's nothing new under the sun, is he speaking that God is always going to be there, Christ is always going to be there?
We're going to get there.
Okay.
If you can wait, right? So, I heard a news story. What about this worshiping of false gods? What about that? Anybody talked about that recently? I heard on the news the other day about a school in Virginia where a Satan worship club wants to hold meetings after school around the flagpole, right? Interesting question, isn't it? So if we want to have freedom in this nation, if we want to be able to do that ourselves, do we allow that to happen? Or do we do something else with that? But that's not the point here, right? The point here is that people worship false gods now. They worship false gods in history, right? Look at Numbers 25 or Judges 8. Just one example that I want to go through. But there are a lot more, right? Numbers 25, Judges 8 talks about Baal, or Baal, or Baal Pereth, specifically Baal Pereth. He was a god that they worshipped. Baal was the son of El and Ashtoreth. El was the chief god. Ashtoreth was a goddess of the sea. And Baal rose to great power. He killed his father. He killed every other god that he could in battles, in history. This is the mythology of it. And then he became the chief god. Especially the Canaanites worshipped Baal, right? In Persia, or like in Daniel's time, it was Marduk. They worshipped Marduk. Well, it's almost the same mythology associated with Marduk. He was the son of a chief god. His mother was a goddess, and he had all of these battles. And he rose to great power because of these battles that he had, right? It's an interesting thing. But what is the worship like? What was the worship like when they worshipped Baal? Well, the priests all of the temples were on the top of a high hill. And the priests would have relations with a woman, and then they would sacrifice that woman. Or he would have relations with a child, and then they would sacrifice that child. So very often in the worship of these gods, that they had to have child sacrifices, that they would have to have child mutilation or sacrifices of women after they had relationships with them. Is that going on today? Do you see that going on today? I mean, you can see it in the headlines every single day. And we're going to talk about these things, and we're going to talk about them in the open, about what's going on, what's happening to our children, and what is happening to our people in this country, right? So if you can go to the book of Daniel real quick. Oh, forgive me. I lost my marker for it. I apologize. Let me go. Okay. Daniel chapter 10. In the third year, Daniel chapter 10. I'm going to slow down. Sorry, Sharon. Daniel chapter 10. Starting in verse 1. In the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia. Remember that the Israel and Judah were in captivity at this point. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. The message was true, but the appointed time was long, and he understood the message and had an understanding of vision. Those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant. 3 full weeks is a key to this. 3 full weeks, 21 days. I ate no pleasant food, no meat or wine came into my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. Now on the 24th day of the first month, as I was by the side of the great river, that is the Tigris, I lifted my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose waist was girded with gold of Uphaz. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like torches of fire, his arms and feet like burnished bronze in color, and the sound of his words like the voice of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great terror fell upon them, so that they fled, hid themselves. Therefore, I was left alone when I saw this great vision, and no strength remained in me, for my vigor was turned to frailty in me, and I retained no strength. Yet I heard the sound of his words, and while I heard the sound of his words, I was in a deep sleep on my face, with my face to the ground. I love it when an angel appears to anybody. Oh, I'm going to ask him these questions. No, you're not. You're going to get up off the ground, maybe. Suddenly a hand touched me, which made me tremble on my hands, and on the palms, on my knees, and on the palm of my hands. And he said to me, O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak to you, and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you. While he was speaking this word to me, I stood trembling. Then he said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. 3 weeks. The prince of the kingdom of Persia. Remember we said that the god that the Persians worshipped was Marduk? And if you go back a little bit, especially into 2 Kings, you see that before this, Nebuchadnezzar had sacked Judah and taken some of the articles out of the temple and taken them back and put them in the temple of his god. That was Marduk, right? And now Persia had the same god after Persia defeated Nebuchadnezzar. Now I have come, let's see. And behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left alone there with the kings of Persia. The spiritual battle that's taking place behind the physical battle that was taking place between Persia and the other nations at that time. The spiritual battle was more important than that physical battle, but they were happening together at the same time. The archangel Michael, the protecting angel of Israel, came and helped this angel so that he could get away, and then he had to go back, go talk to Daniel, and then go back. It's interesting, isn't it? But I mean, it's the spiritual battle that is taking place. So when you read these things, you talk about these examples that we did, when you talk about the savagery of war then and now, right? You talk about worshiping false gods then and now. You talk about the slavery then and now. You talk about all of the horrible things and all of the good things that happen. You have no doubt in your mind that there is nothing new under the sun. Going back to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, the key to this passage, as Esther was talking about, the key to this passage, it's not that there's nothing new. It's that there's nothing new under the sun. What does that mean when it says under the sun? What do you think that means? What do you think, y'all?
Everything.
Everything? Specifically what?
I don't know.
Sure you do. Sure you do.
I assure you I do not.
I assure you I do not. Under the sun, on the earth, right? That there is nothing new on the earth. right? Under the sun. The sun is over the earth, and that's about it, right? So nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new that happens on the earth, right? It just takes on a different form, just like we've talked about, right? Just like we talked about this morning, it takes on a different form. I want you to turn over to Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. Isaiah, of all the prophets, Isaiah is probably the most messianic, prophet, meaning that Isaiah prophesies the coming of the Messiah more than any other prophet does, but he's not the only one, because we're going to look at Jeremiah as well. But looking at Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19, and he says, "Behold, I will do a new thing." See, God says to Isaiah, "Behold, I will do a new thing," right? "Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. So behold, I will do a new thing." What is that new thing? Turn over to Jeremiah now. Chapter 31. Specifically verse 22.
Say that again.
Jeremiah
What chapter?
chapter 31. Jeremiah 31 verse 22. Go up just a little bit. Go up into 21 as well. Put a little context. "Set up signposts. Make landmarks. Set your heart toward the highway, the way in which you went. Turn back, O Virgin of Israel. Turn back to these your cities. How long will you gad about, O you backsliding daughter? For the Lord has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall encompass a man." What's we talking about here? What is this new thing that God is going to do? We just said that there's nothing new under the sun. So what is this new thing that God is doing? That's it. That's it. It has everything to do with Jesus, right? So the only new thing that happened was God becoming man in God the Son, right? And dwelling and walking among His people and sacrificing Himself, the perfect sacrifice, and then His resurrection from the dead. That's a new thing, right? That was the new thing. If there's nothing new under the sun, that was the new thing. I rolled through this a lot faster than I thought I would this morning. Any comments or questions about this? Yes, ma'am?
Jesus wasn't new.
No.
God wasn't new.
No.
His appearance on earth was the new thing.
That was the new thing.
And the fact that He was the Savior.
Under the sun, right? The fact that Him becoming man and being under the sun, that was the new thing. Exactly right. Exactly right. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to give you about 15 minutes of your time back, or about 10 minutes of your time back. So make no mistake that every day, every week, every year, all the time, we're in a spiritual battle. Every single day, right? So that's what we're going to talk about in a couple of months, I think.
Pat, when you do that, go right back to what you said. That's not anything new.
And it's nothing new. It's nothing new. It has been since the beginning of time. That's exactly right, Joe. It has been so from the beginning of time. Well, from Genesis chapter 3, right? From the beginning of time until Jesus comes back. It will be that way, right? That every single physical thing that you encounter in your life, there's a spiritual battle behind it. I truly believe that, and I'm going to prove that to you. And then we're going to talk about how, right? I mean, it's always a little frustrating to me when somebody stands up and tells you the what and the why, but they never tell you how, right? So we're going to dive into how to fight that spiritual battle. Cool? And what is really good about this subject is that we know that the battle is already won. The battle has already been won. Jesus has been here. He fought the battle. He won the battle. And so what's nice is all that we truly have to do is stand firm on Jesus, and we'll win the battle. Cool? Any other comments? See, you get 10 minutes of your life back. Thank you all very much.